Star Wars 7 by 7 episode 3103. Happy New Year to you. Happy 2023. As with every first of the month, we're going to kick things off for January and for the new year with a look at what is coming for Star Wars storytelling specifically this month. Punch it. Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod, and this is Star Wars 7 by 7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy, and thank you so much for joining me for it. So yes, I'm just making it clear, if you happen to be a recent listener or viewer for Star Wars 7 by 7, obviously we've been going through the 2023 preview and the 2022 year in review with the most recent episodes, but yeah, every month on the first of the month, usually we do this particular thing. The only time it varies is if we have a release of some kind that we need to talk about, which tends to take priority. But yeah, we usually go through 12 categories of Star Wars storytelling, which are, it's always a challenge for me to get them off the top of my head, movies, live action series, animation, books, audiobooks and short stories, merchandise, live events, streaming, video games, virtual reality, and comics. Yeah, I got all 12. It's already a good start to the year. And we'll start as we usually do with movies about which we know very little at this point, but I'll refresh what we've been doing in previous episodes where we've talked about the production process of The Force Awakens. And with that, we would be in the equivalent of January of 2013. So during that month, they just got started with concept art for all intents and purposes. And Michael Arndt had been writing for a couple of months at that point. So yeah, that's where things were there, which is not necessarily easily portable to where we're at right now with our experience. We do know that Patty Jenkins's Rogue Squadron is still in some form of development, but we don't necessarily know what that was. We can presume that there was concept art being worked on at the time that it had been in development previously, so they would be much further ahead by comparison than they were with the Force Awakens situation. It's possible that something similar could be happening with the Taika Waititi movie, except they would be more in line with what the Force Awakens production schedule was because he was writing in the middle of 2022. So yeah, that's another possibility. And then the Damon Lindelof led one, which had rumors broken about it near the end of the year. Supposedly that one has a lot of juice behind it as well, and they are allegedly working on the script for that too. So there's also a possibility that concept art could be starting for that as well. It would be great to find out which one it's going to be, but I have a feeling we're not going to find out for a couple of months at least. So don't hold your breath, but we'll keep track of it for you all the same. On the live action series front, it's counting down to Mandalorian Season 3. We are exactly 2 months away from its debut, which is very exciting. Of course, they should be mostly locked on it. I mean, they probably still have some post-production things to do. Maybe there's a little music stuff they're doing with Ludwig Göransson also at this point. But for the most part, they should be ready to go and just battening down the final hatches, as it were. Although we don't have a release date for it, we're expecting the Ahsoka series to debut after that. They should be in post-production for that right about now. Skeleton Crew is anticipated for the end of the year, or at least the back portion of the year, and they should still be filming for that, even though there's been no official confirmation one way or the other. It's all been rumors and leaks and spoilers about that one. And then The Acolyte, we know, is filming right now as well. On the animation front, in just 3 short days, we are getting not 1, but 2 episodes of The Bad Batch to kick off the Season 2 premiere, and then we will get single episodes for the rest of the weeks in January. So we're going to have 5 episodes of The Bad Batch in total in January, which is very exciting stuff. On the book front, it's pretty quiet in January. There is a junior novelization for the Book of Boba Fett series that's coming out, and that's it. On the audiobook front, the big drop happens on Tuesday. It is the Battle of Jeddah audiobook original by George Mann, which takes place after the events of the Wave 1 novels from Phase 2 of the High Republic Mega Ginormous Storytelling Initiative. And we will be talking about that on Tuesday and Wednesday. And I'll try not to talk about it in too much detail, but there's a lot to talk about with this thing. I mean, yeah, anyway, the less said about it for the moment, the better. But I am thoroughly enjoying it, and if you're a High Republic fan and an audiobook original fan, I think you will enjoy it as well. On the short story front, I know that Star Wars Insider Magazine issue 216 is supposed to hit newsstands on February 7th, but subscribers tend to get them a couple weeks early, so it means that we will likely have that in January, and that means that we will have another Tales of Enlightenment story from George Mann, another High Republic Phase 2 story in our hands this month. On the merchandise front, it's hard to say whether we're going to get anything necessarily. I will say that at least with the Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, they did merchandise campaigns leading into the series or, along with the release of the series. So it's possible that we will see a kind of bring home the bounty type of situation, and possibly even starting in the month of January, but hard to say for sure. And I will say also that even with that merchandise, the last few releases, they've been really locking down the stuff that they have put on their product descriptions and whatnot. It hasn't really been very illuminating or enlightening at all. So, we may end up removing that as a category potentially, unless it turns out to be like a leak or a spoiler thing, like with Lego sets that were being released that had certain characters in them or something like that. But yeah, for right now, it doesn't look like we're going to get anything significantly storytelling related from the merchandise area in the month of January. On the virtual reality side, it seems like it's going to be pretty dry comparatively for the month of January as well. The enhanced edition of Tales from the Galaxy's Edge is not scheduled to hit PlayStation VR 2 until February 22nd. So yeah, not necessarily expecting anything on the VR front in the month of January. As for video games, well, I'm thinking back to last year, and it looked like January was going to be a very quiet month. And then Lucasfilm Games came out with announcement after announcement after announcement about this game being in development and that game being in development and the other game being in development. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some announcements come out, and we talked about this a little bit in a previous episode, about updates on games in development or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised to see that in the month of January, but I guess, that's up in the air. We know that we're not getting anything about Jedi Survivor until March when that releases, so nothing to expect necessarily in January except surprises that are probably just around the corner, so to speak. On the streaming side of things, as in new releases to Disney Plus that aren't necessarily tied to ongoing series or anything like that, not expecting anything in the month of January. I know that we have some sort of like Disney Gallery or some other kind of behind the scenes things to expect from the Andor series, but I don't think we're going to get that, quite honestly, probably not until May the 4th, because we're going to have so much new Star Wars content hitting Disney Plus from January all the way through mid-April, so there's no reason for them to do it until much later. So yeah, I'm not expecting new streaming non-series related content to be an issue or a thing, I guess I should say, in the month of January. On the live event side of things, Star Wars Celebration, of course, is happening in April of 2023. So as far as what would happen in January, we might have announcements about the first, stage hosts or featured guests going to Star Wars Celebration London. That's the kind of thing I expect to see this month. Just some very top level information about what's going to be happening at Celebration this time around. And I didn't say anything about this on the podcast previously, but there was an announcement in December, and yes, this isn't going to apply to us until September of 23, but let's just put it on the table so that way we know it's there. But there's going to be another D23 event. It's happening September 8th through 10th at the Contemporary Resort, which is part of the Orlando Disney complex. And yes, there will be some Star Wars related news announced there. Obviously, it's a little far ahead to be wondering what that might be. I bet Skeleton Crew is probably a part of that. But yeah, just something for us to keep on our radars that event is going to be happening. I don't think we're going to see any Star Wars related announcements about it in January, but yeah, just so you know it's coming. And last but not least, on the comic book front, we have 10 titles dropping this month. So the standard monthly titles: Star Wars issue 30, Darth Vader issue 30, Bounty Hunters issue 30, Dr. Aphra issue 28. And then on the limited series side of things, we're going to have the 7th issue of the Mandalorian Season 1 adaptation, the 9th issue of the Han Solo and Chewbacca maxi series, and the 3rd issue of the Yoda maxi series, which should close out the High Republic arc. And speaking of the High Republic, we will also get the High Republic issue 4, the High Republic Adventures issue 2, and the High Republic miniseries The Blade issue 2. And that is everything that we know about Star Wars storytelling happening in the month of January. And if any other news breaks about it, we'll cover it here on the show. And as some of these releases happen, we'll be talking about them on the show as well. But for now, that is going to do it for this episode of the podcast. And it just remains for me to say Happy New Year once again to you. Happy 2023. I wish the best for you and yours. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode, as always. And may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2021 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.